Hey Robert, it's Tupper. How are you? I'm not sure what you're calling me about, but I'd love to talk to you about roller skating as well. Hopefully you're calling me to say you're just dying to get the City Parks Alliance a wonderful grant. But we have a $3 million endowment that will go towards helping to maintain the woodlands. But it costs us about $800,000 a year to maintain the forest in crew, staff, and equipment, and the horticulture and arboriculture parts as well. And that endowment brings in about $150,000. So we obviously have to raise a lot more every year.
This is for many of them, actually, for almost all of them, this is their first job experience. And I just want it to be a positive experience for them. I just want them to, you can say things like, oh yes, it's great, we'll get them interested in nature and we'll get them interested in the community, in the park, and that's all well and good, but I think, they're about to leave high school and they're about to start going into the workforce, and I just want them to have a good first work experience.
Back home, I grew up in like a medium-sized village, and my house was right across the street from the woods that stretched throughout like half the country. So, as a kid, I just grew up in the woods, and I'd help my family, plant the fields and, harvest all the food. So then I came over here and I got really homesick. So I'd spend my days walking around Central Park. And then one day, John, I went to school with him. He said, I can get you a job in Prospect Park. So I came and, it's money, and I get to do what I like. I get to spend at least, a few hours a week, like, with clean air, with woods, trees. And
my first day on the job, I took the initiative. I said, hey man, it's a kind of job like this, you got to put, your best foot forward. So, Dave liked what he saw. He saw I had the initiative, and, he took it upon himself to give me the job as a supervisor, yeah. Because they say that, I guess your workplace makes you sometimes, I guess. And I kind of feel at home when I'm here, this is my place, this is where I come to, so, yeah. And the thing I love about this job is that, our work's never done. There's always something, you can do. And when it comes to this job, I don't think there's a risk of that ever, failing. I think we're always going to be here, we're always going to be helping the park. This park will always be here, no matter what happens.
This year is my last time working with Woodlands. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to try and persuade David back and work next summer, because I don't think I should work with any other place in Prospect Park. I like it here.
And what is it you like so much about it again?
Like, I like plants and trees. Like, because of working with Woodlands, I can name at least 10 trees and shrubs in this park.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot of fun for me.
It's one of those jobs where you think about what it's going to look like 50 to 100 years from now, and not what it's going to look like next week. And so you have to use your imagination and imagine what it's going to look like.
Yeah, this tree is my favorite tree. It's one of my favorite trees. It's called a willow oak. And part of the reason it's my favorite tree is just because it's kind of has that classic oak shape. It has this humongous trunk, a really nice flare. It's a beautiful solitary tree, and it's just a great specimen to walk upon. And it's, in addition, it's kind of hidden away. A lot of people don't come to this corner of the park. You start walking in the park, and all of a sudden you come to this lawn, and there's this huge oak there, and it's just awesome. So. It's a great mature tree. It's probably about 130 years old.
There is a connection for me, because when I was a kid, there was a lot of trees that I couldn't climb because, like Happy said, it's very difficult to get to the first branch, and a lot of times the branch is way up. So the trees are usually 30, 40 feet. But now, that you have harnesses and ropes, it's, it kind of brings you back to your childhood.
You can go as high as you want.
Now you can go into those big trees and, go to the canopy and look out.
Right.
And it's,
and I remember as a child going up as high as I could.
Right. But now you're safe, so it's even better. And then rappelling out of the tree is the best part of the whole day. I'd go up into the canopy of the tree, do my, inspection, and then I would see like maybe a girl coming down the sidewalk, and I would zip line right out of the tree right in front of them, zoom, hit the ground, you know. Hey, how are you? So it was kind of funny.
Like your version of being a superhero.
You know, just being like Spider-Man, just dropping in,
Right.
you know, dropping down or dropping in on the scene. You know, it's like, hey, how are you?
You know, the main purpose we're there for is to take care of the health of the tree. So unlike in the forest where a tree, you know, if it doesn't look that great and it's kind of falling apart, it doesn't really matter because no one's going to get hurt. And here, you want to have a great looking tree that you know can become a really tall, big tree and be healthy with a great shape. And if it has a poor shape, then it becomes a liability, and there's issues with that.
28 plots. Each plot can have anywhere from, I'd say,
Depends
like
on
a
the
dozen
success.
to hundreds of plants.
She comes back, checks the same plots, these 5x7 plots, to see the success of the growth of the things that they plant. Because like, it's an indicator of how successful you are when you're doing, because like they plant every year, and if they failed every year, I mean, you wouldn't know where to improve.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what it's doing is it's letting you look at a bigger area of the canopy in a small space in your hand. So it has a mirror that's curved in it, so you can see a pretty good section of the canopy. And then within that, it's divided into little squares, and then there's a way to read, like, you read the number of quarter square openings in the canopy. So you're looking for, so Phil's giving me numbers where you're missing something from the canopy, where you can actually see the sky through. And then you take that number and multiply it by 1.04 and subtract it from 100 to get the percent canopy cover that there is.
In the writing that I do, the educational writing I do, I actually wrote a small piece about Olmsted and this park. I wanted to know more about the park, and of course then I found out that it was the same guy that made Central Park and all these other parks. And actually, of all the works he did internationally, when asked which his favorite park was, he said Prospect Park. This was his favorite. And his thinking in making the park, and I think he succeeded in this, was to make a place in an urban environment where people had no idea that they were in an urban environment, where you could completely forget you were in a city. When I walk around, sometimes I look at trees and I try to gauge from the size of their trunk whether this tree might have been here when Walt Whitman lived in Brooklyn. And all the great writers and artists that have lived in Brooklyn. I love thinking about that they would come here for inspiration and rest. Because everyone does. These big boulders that you find in Long Island were tracked here by a massive glacier during the Ice Age. So I grew up in a town with boulders like this all over the place, and the North Shore of Long Island has big boulders like this where the glacier passed through and dredged all these massive rocks. Yeah, in my elementary school we had a bunch of these big boulders in the yard, and each of them had a name and an identity that all the kids somehow knew about. You know, one was the Love Rock, you know, one was the Singing Rock, and one was kind of like the Cooties Rock. Like one like had the cooties. ¿Cómo se llaman ustedes?
Alexander, Emily,
Emily, Deborah. ¿Cuál de arriba? ¿Qué te gusta de allí? She likes that part up there, all the trees. Where we were sitting. Sí, es muy lindo, ¿no? ¿Qué más?
we can run. A mí también.
Oh, really? ¿Pueden subirlo?
We can run
You can run
and play.
and play.
And so I studied global warming. I chose global warming instead of global dimming. And I chose birds because I knew birds migrated spring and winter. Some would stay, some would go. So I knew that if a bird that came in the spring came earlier than spring started, I knew something was going on. So I studied birds for at least 4 weeks, 4 Saturdays, and I noticed that some birds were coming earlier. And so I wrote that down in my report, and I talked about what would happen if it got really warm and then really cold. A lot of birds might end up dying, causing extinction in certain species. And so I thought that people had to put a stop to it, and we have to stop using cars that run on gas and oil and everything. So I think that hybrids would be better for that reason.
Yeah.
And
Or public transportation too.
yeah. And those trucks are really killing us. So I forget the name. I think it would be a peregrine falcon.
They're fast.
Yeah, that's the reason I like the fact that they're fastest swooping birds in America. They swoop, they can go really fast. So, so what bird would you be?
I would love to say that I would be a scarlet tanager.
It's another nice one.
It's beautiful. It flies very far to migrate.
Only stay here for about a week or so.
It's only
right?
here for a short time. I guess it travels a lot. That's what I would like to do. Travel a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh look, a bunch of geese.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a female in there?
Yeah.
I think it's a bat above us. It just flew over us.
Oh my God! It is.
Yeah.
It was.
This project's been going on now this is the 4th year. It's expanded now into Prospect Park, which is really great. Prior to that, it's been up in the Bronx. Birds we're banning are thrushes and ground warblers. And the study focuses on a Swainson's thrush. It also focuses on a water thrush, the northern water thrush, ovenbird, and common yellowthroat. White-throated sparrow actually is new to the list, and also myrtle warbler or yellow-rumped warbler. What we're actually taking primarily is blood. We're taking a blood sample, and in that blood we're looking for the signs of either storing fat or burning fat, which is lipid. In the plasma there's triglycerides and butyrates, and those are vehicles that carry the lipids or the fat. And we're looking at levels of those in the blood samples. And that'll tell us if the birds are feeding or burning fuel.